Great. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here today. My name is Katie Alex Stevens, and I'm a product manager here at Harvard Business School Online. I'm delighted to be here today with Sunil Gupta. Sunil is the Edward W. Carter Professor of Business Administration at Harvard Business School and teaches HBS Online's Digital Marketing Strategy Certificate course. His award-winning research examines digital technology's impact on consumer behavior and organizational strategy, and how businesses should transform amidst digital transformation and disruption. Sunil has served as the head of Harvard Business School's Marketing Research Unit, is an advisor to several startups, has consulted global industry leaders, and has published 3 books, the most recent being Driving Digital Strategy, a guide to reimagining your business. Today, Sunil will be presenting on the topic of leveraging AI for marketing. Afterward, we hope to have time to answer your questions. Please submit them in the Zoom Q&A or on our social channels, and thank you as well to folks who have already submitted questions via the registration process. Sunil, take it away.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome everybody. Delighted to be here to share my perspective on how the world of marketing is completely being reshaped by AI. I'm going to share my screen and go back and forth between a couple of screens. So if there is a little bit of confusion, I apologize in advance. But let me start with sharing my screen. And hopefully you can see my screen here. So let me start with the things that you already know, that since almost about 2 years ago, ChatGPT has taken the world by storm. Lots of people are adopting it. Everybody, I'm sure all of you on this call have already tried it in some form or the other. Investment in AI is also increasing dramatically. In fact, some recent research by Goldman Sachs suggests that there will be as much as $200 billion in investment in AI in different forms and shapes. How marketing function is using it. Again, eMarketer reports this particular chart of different ways to use it in companies in various forms of personalization of content, ad optimization, chatbots, etc. And I'm sure your organizations are doing it as well. What I think I will do in this webinar is focus on how we can think about AI for the 4 key functions of marketing, the so-called 4 Ps: the product, the price, promotion, and the place. And I'll touch upon each one of those Ps and how they're being affected by AI in one form or the other. So let's start with product. One example of how product design is changing is what Nike did with a French company, Obvious Art. And in this case, Nike wanted to redesign its Air Max sneakers. And they partnered with Obvious Art, and they gave them all the previous designs of Air Max sneakers. That was the data set that Obvious Arts input that into their own generative AI software. From that, they created some of the what they call the latent space, which is the fundamental key characteristics of the shoe, and then came up with the AI-generated model. And what you see on the right-hand side is the final shoe that came out with that AI design. And once that shoe was launched in a limited edition, within 10 days, the whole inventory was sold out. So that is an example of how a large company actually used the power of AI to completely redesign, keeping the core of the shoe and the principles, but also coming up with some creative ideas. But this is not only possible for large companies. In fact, we can create a new product right on the fly. And let me share an example of how we can do that with ChatGPT as a live example. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and shift to my ChatGPT. And very soon you will be able to see that. Hopefully you can see my ChatGPT slide.
Looks great.
Okay, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT to suggest a few names for a beauty cream that I want to create for Gen Z. Okay, and so it's going to come up with a few names, and I'm going to now pick up a name and say, okay, let's just create a package design for, let's say, Glow Up. And now it's going to create a package design for the product. And it takes a minute or so. And now suddenly we have a design for the product in real time. You can go through multiple iterations if you don't like this one. And then I can say, okay, write a story about the founders, about the company and its two young founders. And this could be used as a blog to highlight what the company is all about. Of course, in this case, it's making it up, but you can imagine as to how this will work. You can even, it's amazing as to how fast it actually comes up with, and you can read this stuff. And again, I'm sure you have tried all these things in one form or the other, but this is a great way to create organic content, to create blogs for your website. You can even create, I can say, okay, write a code for a website, and it'll write a Python code very quickly in terms of and give you instructions to create a website from scratch. So all this is possible, and I'm sure you have tried that. And again, this is very useful for a startup which does not have the resources of a large company to do this. And very quickly, you can iterate on this as a starting point for this. But not only that, once you have created this kind of a product, you can even create a jingle for it. And let me show you how that can be done. And let me share another screen with you. In this case, let's see. This is a software called Suno. You can see this slide, Katie?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Sunil.
Okay, so now I can say create, I can't spell create a pop style song for beauty cream. Go up. And now it will create, I've already created, but now you see here it is creating some songs. It takes about a minute to create a music for it. And as you can see, I've tried that in the past. Okay, here, Glow Up and Shine. And what you see on the right-hand side are the lyrics of the song. And here we can listen to it. Can you hear it?
I do.
In the mirror, I can see a brighter side of me. Glow cream so real, makes my skin feel free. Every morning, sunrise light, I put it on, feel so right. Soft and smooth every day, washes all my worries away. Glow and shine, night and day, light up my face in every way. Feel the glow, feel the gleam, live the dream, glow cream.
Okay, you get the picture in terms of how we can now very quickly create. Okay, I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen.
I love how that had both the functional benefits and the emotional benefits, Sunil. It was even washing your worries away. It was incredible.
Yeah, so again, I think it's a great way to start creating a content and a design, even if you're a startup, or even if you're a small company. So, Katie, you can see my slides now again?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm getting Katie's help to make sure that you can actually see what I'm showing you. So that was an example, a short example of how we can use AI to create new product designs, to create new ad content, to create blogs, to create website. Now, again, of course, this leads to how we can use the promotion of a product once we have created that. And as you know, we can actually do personalization. And here are two examples of a beauty company for example, Olay creates Skin Advisor, where you can, using facial recognition, they can tell you what your skin opportunities are, what the challenges you have with your skin, and what kind of a skin products might be actually good for you. And I think L'Oreal is doing the same thing. Sephora is doing that same thing to actually enhance what might be the right personalized product for you. Now, this personalization can also be done at scale. And here is an example of an award-winning ad by Cadbury using the Bollywood star Shah Rukh Khan. Hopefully, you can hear and see this also. Katie, let me know.
Brands have big
Working very well, thank you.
People, but not the small guys. And they are the ones who are still hurting. Presenting Shah Rukh Khan, My Ad.
He almost certainly has more devoted fans than any other movie star in the world.
Biggest movie star in the world.
Forbes have called him one of the biggest movie stars in the world.
We helped small businesses by making Shah Rukh Khan, the world's biggest movie star, their brand ambassador.
इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले फैशन ऑफ एम्पोरियम से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। सिद्धि विनायक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स से लेटेस्ट स्मार्टफोन खरीदकर धमाकेदार सेल्फी पोस्ट करना।
क्या कर रहे हो? मीठा लाए कि नहीं?
We used machine learning to recreate Shah Rukh Khan's face and voice to take the local store names in the ads.
आप भी ना अपने पास वाली चॉइस ऑफ फैशन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। रॉयल फैशन से ही, एनके क्लॉथ्स से ही, पास वाली लक्ष्मी कलेक्शन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग।
Different versions of the same ad with local store names were targeted as per the PIN code of the viewer, showing them only the nearby stores. But it is impossible to cover all the stores. So we gave the power to the people to create their own version of Shah Rukh Khan, My Ad. Any small business owner could promote their stores through their own social media networks like WhatsApp forwards and other social media pages.
It is Shah Rukh Khan selling your store, man. If you're a small-time retailer or a merchant, what an amazing thing to have.
Cadbury ad is an ad campaign that has gone viral.
A new ad which stars Bollywood superstar Shah Rukh Khan is winning hearts all over social media.
And what we are learning is that over 1 lakh local stores have already created their own ad with Shah Rukh as a brand ambassador.
दुकानों के नाम बड़ी सेलिब्रेशंस के दिवाली एड में
सपने में भी नहीं सोचा था कि शाहरुख खान मेरे दुकान का ऐड करेगा।
Shah Rukh Khan, My Ad.
So this is an example of how an ad has been personalized at scale. Coke did the same thing of Coke creation, and in March of 2023, they created a campaign called Create Real Magic with Coke, and they provided some of the basic iconic Coke images to all the people around the world to come up, use generative AI to come up with different designs. And the idea was that 30 top designs producers will be selected to come to Coke's headquarters to work with their design team to come up with the new ad campaigns. And many of these ads that the images that were created were showcased on big screens in Times Squares and many different parts of the world. And within a few weeks, 120,000 images were submitted across 17 countries. And Coke reports that the brand engagement jumped by 16,000%. So here are some examples of how the power of generative AI can be used to create completely new different campaigns, unleash the creativity. And not only that, but you can use technology to now optimize the campaigns. And two companies, major companies, Meta and Google, actually now have software programs that automate this entire budget optimization process. So you provide the objectives for your brand, you provide some basic stock images, and these companies can create multiple, sometimes thousands of experiments to see which audience and which ad campaign will work best and how to allocate the budget across different channels. So again, suddenly the optimization is sort of an autopilot and improves the efficiency and effectiveness of your program. There is a lot of research which also shows, academic research, that the AI can actually outperform humans and many creative idea generations. And of course, once you have some interesting ideas, you can iterate on them and add some of the human element as well. The personalized promotion through AI can increase revenue, again, another paper, and the click-through rates can also be higher. So all those are the good news. And that leads to the question, okay, how will these innovations impact marketing cost? As you saw in the previous slide, the short-term impact will be there is a effectiveness will improve, and therefore marketing costs should reduce. However, if you think through this as to what will happen in the long run, if every company starts producing these ads at scale and personalizing at scale, we as consumers will be bombarded with all these ads by every large and small company. And once we are bombarded by these ads, what will happen is the effectiveness of these ads will go down because A startup can create these multiple ads, a large company can create multiple ads, and it will be automated. Once these number of ads increase dramatically, the cost of reaching consumers will increase. So cost of production will go down, but the cost of media will go up because the effectiveness will go down because consumers are bombarded by lots of ads. Now, how do I know this? Because if you look at the history of what happened with Google and Facebook coming into the marketplace about 15 years ago, the advertising spend in the US in the last 15 years has gone up dramatically. So for example, this chart shows the advertising expenditure in the US has almost doubled from 2017 to 2023. But if you look at the population growth in the US, in 2017, the US population was 332 million, and the estimate is it will grow by about 5% by 2030. So population growth by 5% in this time period, but the ad growth is almost double, which means the per capita expenditure has gone up. So as a company, you're spending more to reach each person now than before. And that's the same thing is going to happen with AI. In fact, my assessment is it will happen even more so because the production of ads and personalization at scale will be that much easier, which means every company will do it, which means getting impact on the consumers will be that much more difficult. You see that worldwide, same thing happening at the global scale, and per capita cost globally also is increasing dramatically. So in nutshell, in the short run, personalization and creation of these ads through AI will be helpful for companies. In the long run, they will actually end up spending much more on the media spend, not so much on creation, but much more on media. Who will benefit? The Googles and the Facebooks of the world will benefit because we will be spending more money on those channels. So that's a sort of short version of how the AI will impact promotion. Let's look at pricing. Now, we already see this notion of dynamic pricing that because the algorithms can scan the web, the companies can adjust the price in real time. Here is an example of how Amazon's prices for a product, and I randomly chose the colored pencil sets from Crayola. You see this over time, how the prices are changing dramatically in response to the competitive prices. So at first blush, you will say that, look, because there will be a lot more competitive pressure, Amazon is checking Walmart prices, Walmart is checking another retailer prices, the prices should go down, right? Because we are all competing on price and matching each other's price. But if you think through for a moment, and in fact, there is some research shows that the impact of AI on prices will not be to reduce prices, but will actually be to increase prices. And there's a lot of research, both by economists as well as marketing people, which shows that AI algorithms, if everybody adopts AI algorithm, if all companies adopt AI algorithms, there will be an implicit collusion. Why? Because Amazon, when they search and they find that Walmart is matching their prices, they will have no incentive to reduce the price. And Walmart also will have no incentive to reduce their price because they're not going to get more traffic by reducing price because the competition will immediately match them. So both in theoretical sense and as well as the middle paper that shows that they tested that in the German market for gasoline retailers, when all the retailers adopted AI algorithms to match prices, the prices actually went up. So in the long run, and there is a lot of discussion within the government regulation also, whether there should be some antitrust regulation to control the use of AI algorithms to avoid price collusion, if you will. So again, what happens in the short run is different than what might happen in the long run with these technologies. So that's a preview on what might happen with prices. What can happen in place or the distribution channel? So I think the best way to think about this is think about what are the consumer pain points and how technology might actually help reduce those frictions. So I'll highlight 2 pain points in the retail setting. The first is finding the right product. So imagine going to a hardware store looking for a valve for your faucet. And I don't know about you, but it's impossible to find the stuff that I'm looking for, whether it's in a department store or in a hardware store. And then if I'm looking for a salespeople, I can't find a salesperson to help me. Once I find a salesperson, I walk towards them and they walk away from me. So that's clearly a pain point. So how can AI technology help it? Well, first of all, we can put an iPad in these places for consumers to ask what product they're looking for. But if you can't describe a product, for example, if it's a particular hardware component that I'm looking for and I can't describe it very well, there is image recognition software available very easily that retail stores can actually put it into place, that I can scan my faucet valve and it can immediately tell me where to go and how to pick it up, right? So that's one simple use of AI to solve a friction in the retail place. And I think some companies are already beginning to do that. The second big pain point for retailers or for the consumers in retail setting is long lines to pay. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. Imagine you going to a store to buy something. After 30 minutes of search, once you found something that you like, there's a long line to wait. And invariably, there is always somebody returning the stuff in front of you, and that takes another 20 minutes for you to stand in line, okay? So think about it for a moment, and which is something that I never understood. Why do retailers make you wait to take your money? That's the first thing they should take, right? How can technology solve that pain point? Well, as you probably know, that Amazon is already testing this with their cashierless stores called Amazon Go stores, where the facial recognition recognizes who you are, and you walk into that store, you pick in an item, it is automatically billed to your credit card. And if you want to return something, you go put the item back on the shelf, and the amount is automatically credited to your credit card again. So again, these are two examples of using technology to reduce the friction or the pain point in the retail setting that can actually improve the customer experience. The second part as to where technology and a digital component will have an impact on distribution is on e-commerce. And as you know, more and more companies are becoming omni-channel. And if I'm a grocery store like Walmart or Carrefour, I'm also doing e-commerce or delivery at home because consumers ask for it. The challenge for many of these stores is that the e-commerce is not very profitable. And this is one study which shows the profitability of e-commerce. So think of grocery delivery at home. Grocery is a very thin margin business to begin with. The net margin is in a grocery store is about 1 to 2%. If you add on top of that the delivery cost, it suddenly becomes unprofitable. And most consumers like you and me are not willing to pay for the delivery cost. So the challenge for retailers then is, how do you satisfy customers and still make money? There is increasing pressure on retailers to do delivery at home or do e-commerce because customers want it, and that puts pressure on their profitability. One thing that more and more companies are beginning to do is looking at other ways to make money rather than making money only on the grocery itself. And a big component of where the money will be made in many of these distribution channels will be on retail media. So if you look at amount of money projected as to where retail media will make money is tremendous. So companies like Walmart, et cetera, are going to make a lot more money on media than on actual the grocery shopping, so to speak. And as you know, last year, Amazon made $47 billion on advertising alone. And that is not their main business to begin with, but it's becoming more of an important business. So that's another change that you will see, that there will be a shift in terms of where the retailers make money, not simply on selling the goods and services, but on the advertising front, which means they have to build more capabilities in terms of how do you actually generate traffic, how do you optimize advertising, how do you do the budget allocation for retail media, et cetera. And then you'll see that transition happen also. So let me sort of summarize and say, look, there are lots of changes happening on all components of marketing in the product design component, new product introduction. You can also do market research very easily in terms of promotion and personalization at scale, which will help in the short run. But as more and more companies start doing it, it will actually increase the media cost because consumers will be bombarded with a lot more ads. On the pricing front, again, in the short run, there will be a lot more price competition and prices might go down. But in the long run, as every company adopts the AI algorithms for pricing, there is a danger of implicit price collusion which might increase prices. And on the distribution side, companies will use AI to reduce the consumer pain point and focus more and more on retail media as a source of income rather than just the selling of the products and services. So eventually, what AI promises to do is transform every one of us into a superhero. In other words, allow us to do things that we couldn't do before. And I tried to use AI to convert me into a superhero, and this is what it came up with. So it can certainly make all of you into a superhero also. So let me stop here and open up for any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Tremendous presentation, a lot of food for thought there. I loved the overarching frame of the 4 Ps of marketing for all our marketer friends. And certainly if folks would like more of a deep dive into marketing strategy, your course, Digital Marketing Strategy through HBS Online is sort of a wonderful way to gain those foundations for folks who are interested in that. But I will turn to a few questions now. We've had a very robust sort of chat going on in the sidebar. Folks very eager to get in on the discussion, really enjoying your presentation. I suppose I'll combine a couple of questions. Here we have a lot of learners who come to us either from small or medium-sized businesses. They're entrepreneurs, perhaps, again, at relatively under-resourced ventures, or perhaps they're even entrepreneurs at larger companies. So sort of part one of the question, I suppose, is the best place for someone like this who'd like to get their toes wet, if you will, in the world of AI as a marketer? Is it something like hopping on to that chat GPT to generate whatever they might need, whether it be a marketing plan or a piece of collateral? And then the second part of the question comes to us from Melissa. And caveat here, I know this is not a Harvard Law School presentation, it's a Harvard Business School presentation, but she's very curious about the output from these tools and what might be the copyright or the trademark concerns if you do get a jingle or some imagery. So Sunil, what are your thoughts on those 2 points?
So in terms of actually for any small business or a startup producing content, I think it's becoming easier as I try to demonstrate using ChatGPT for a new beauty cream. And ChatGPT is not the only software you can use. There are lots of other things. Anthropic has one, and Google has another one, and Meta has another one. So there are lots of foundational models, and they're opening it up. Their basic versions are free for most people to use, and even more pro versions are available for not too expensive price. So I think certainly it's worthwhile for people to experiment with those things. And then in most cases, what I've found is these AI programs or AI softwares are good for initial generation of ideas. And then there is involvement of humans to actually iterate on that based on your objectives, your company insights, and your particular instinct in terms of how the market will react. So these are great idea generation tools. And of course, as we all know, the AI softwares have hallucinations. In other words, they're not always right. But in marketing, actually not being right is not necessarily bad because we want creativity. For creativity, we want a bit of an extreme ideas. And I think that's why AI software is especially good for creative ideas in marketing, and I think for a small business, you don't have to have a large agency to work on this. You can do it now. So that's the answer to the first part of the question. The second part of the question, the IP question, is clearly very relevant. And I think this is where almost every company, including the AI creators, as well as the corporates, are struggling, and even the governments are sort of struggling as to how to manage the copyright issues. Adobe has trying to attack this problem in a different way. So Adobe, as you know, is a software company which produces software like Photoshop. And they are creating their own version along with people like OpenAI, where if I'm Coca-Cola, I actually submit in a more enterprise software version of the OpenAI ChatGPT, my own content, and ask ChatGPT to then create content that is only based on my own IP. So if I'm Coca-Cola, I cannot create a Mickey Mouse with a Coke bottle because Mickey Mouse is owned by Disney and the software will not create those. So I think that companies, especially large companies who are concerned about copyright violation and legal lawsuits, are actually taking that constraint. Now, those images will be more constrained and less creative, but at least it will be within the bounds of this. But I think the IP is a big problem that only time will tell as to how we actually sort it out.
Thank you for that. I think that'll give folks some heart in the near term, and pardon me, exciting to hear how that will unfold over time. Great. So I'll turn to perhaps combining a couple of other interesting questions. One coming in via an attendee just now live. Curious if you could speak a little bit about to usages of AI for marketers in service-driven industries, for example, coaching or consulting. And then similarly, another question coming in from Samir, how can AI help B2B marketing strategy development and execution? So to the extent there might be some intersection there between services, B2B, I know we're largely B2C marketers, but how might folks in those other industries be leveraging these tools?
So in service business, certainly a lot of companies are using it for call centers, right? So for responding to customers' requests or questions, a lot of automation is being done. And we already had chatbots. Now these are chatbots and AI avatars responding to lots of the questions the consumers have. So that's already happening. In lots of places, you still have live customer representatives, but they are supported by AI. So that they have better repository of material to respond to customer queries in a shorter period of time, which makes it customer satisfaction goes up and the effectiveness of the reps goes up. In consulting, if you look at large consulting firms like McKinsey's and others, they have a huge repository of knowledge spread across the company in different geographies. And they're saying, how do we leverage that database as a knowledge base? So imagine you're a young associate joining McKinsey and you want to know what knowledge already exists to help, let's say, a retail client in Australia. And you can just ask the software to dig up all the information that is relevant. Now, you could have done that even before, but it would have taken you far more time to do that basic research. Now it's a lot easier to do that research. So I think the knowledge-based companies is obviously very, very useful, and consulting is certainly a knowledge-based industry. In B2B, I think there is we had some discussion with the companies, enterprise software companies like SAP. So for example, if you take a company like SAP, they historically have dealt with large enterprise companies for ERP systems. These are large on-prem systems, but the world is moving towards cloud. And once you move to cloud, effectively, you convert the CapEx into OpEx. In other words, as a small business, I don't have to spend a lot of money to have a software on my premise. I can buy whatever I want based on number of licensing on the cloud. And that opens up the market for a lot of small businesses as potential customers. Once that happens, if I'm SAP, I can't reach this large number of small B2B customers through my traditional sales channel because that's too expensive. So how do I do that? That's where the AI and digital channels become much more effective to reach to thousands of these small B2B customers that I couldn't have done before. And I think we have seen this already happening in the B2B marketplace.
That's great. Thank you for that. Turning a little bit to measurement, and again, folks who are interested in learning more about how we identify KPIs, measure them. There's a lot of great content in Sunil's course with us, the digital marketing strategy course. But in the meantime, in this webinar, Frank asks, how can companies effectively measure their return on investment, their ROI, from AI-driven marketing initiatives? And what KPIs, what key performance indicators would you use?
So I think the AI is good for both efficiency, improving the efficiency and effectiveness. So if the focus is on improving efficiency, which basically boils down to improving productivity and reducing cost, then the metric is You can do time and motion studies to sort of say how much time it took to create a content by a human versus how much time the AI, if you use AI, how much time it takes. And I think you can create that sort of a differential in terms of time saving and then convert it into the effectively the cost of a person, if you will. Lots of companies are beginning to say we need to grow by, let's say, 10%, but we are not going to add more people. So there's a savings in terms of the people and the cost. Same thing if I'm a call center, my call volume is increasing, but I don't need to add more call representatives in my call center, and that's the cost saving. So I think if the focus is on efficiency, then the metric is the savings in time and cost. And that's what you can measure in different forms and shape. If the focus is on effectiveness, so if I create as I showed you, I do personalization at scale. That means I'm creating more personalized ads. The hope is if the ads are more personalized, then the click-through rates will be higher. And therefore, they will be more effective. So then you need to figure out the difference in click-through rates with and without personalization through AI, and therefore what the conversion rate would be. And again, there are examples of that where companies are using it. So I think the measurement depends on the objective and what you are using the AI for. And as I said, largely speaking, either for efficiency or for effectiveness.
That's great. I think very helpful frame for folks to consider there. Thank you. Tremendously helpful. I suppose we'd be remiss in a discussion of AI to not consider the ethical angle. And in fact, Susanna asks us, what are some ethics that people should consider when using AI for marketing? If you had some thoughts there, Sunil.
So certainly, I think the ethical concerns are a huge issue. We already talked about the IP issues, right? So what happens if you use these softwares, who owns the content, and whether they are scraping all the content from the web, and there are already lawsuits, whether there are different companies are saying that OpenAI or Anthropic or others are using my data to train their models. So one part is the IP, and I think that is a more contentious issue. Ethical from the point of view of all these foundational models. Should they use it? Should they compensate New York Times, for example, for the articles they're scraping or not? For the company's point of view, I think there is also ethical issue in terms of the representation or misrepresentation of the information. So for example, now you can create the influencers using AI. So virtual avatars can become influencers for your brand. And now they look like real life people. And TikTok already has those. And many other companies are bringing these real lifetime avatars. I think the onus is on companies to disclose and inform people that this is actually AI created avatars. So you don't lose the trust of the consumers. And many consumers actually are perfectly fine with it to interact with artificial intelligence rather than real human beings, because the AI avatars don't get irritated, whereas the actual human being might get angry. So again, different people may choose to interact with different versions of the things that you offer, but I think onus is on us to disclose that information as much as we can. And the third thing I think is there's a great potential of misusing this technology for the wrongful purposes. We already hear about a lot of misinformation being disseminated through AI in the current election cycle. Same thing can be done at any level, at the brand level, at the company level, at the consumer level. So I think those concerns are valid and need to be taken care of.
Thank you for that. I guess I'm curious too, and I was thinking of the Cadbury ad there with Shah Rukh Khan as well. We had a question from Boris, which was, how can businesses balance AI-driven insights with maintaining a human touch in marketing to sustain customer trust? So again, to your point just now about sort of avatars, personalization, but sort of synthetic representations of human beings. Is there sort of a novelty factor here that might wear off, or how do we sort of think about that intersection, perhaps in a larger integrated marketing campaign, of these AI created elements and perhaps a genuine organic human element, if you will?
So I think the human element will always be there in some form and shape. And again, different consumers react differently. So if you think about in the good old days when we were traveling, we would go to an airline counter to get an aisle seat or a window seat, right? Now we are quite comfortable going to a kiosk and interacting with technology and not talking to a human being. So I think the same thing will happen, that people have different tastes. Some people don't want to interact with a human being and work with technology. Some people always want to talk with human being. So I think as a company, first of all, you need to have options because different people act differently. And the second part I would say is adoption of technology varies by the consumer segment that you're talking about, both externally as well as internally. So, for example, we worked with a company that was using the AI software for inventory management. So how much stock, this is a fashion goods company, how much stock do I send to different stores so that you don't run out of stock? And the AI models could predict better as to what the demand would be, and therefore how much different items of different color and size should be sent to store A versus store B. But the store managers were not quite happy because to them, it looked like a black box. So it's not a question of whether the AI model is good or bad. It's a question of also the adoption and the comfort level of the individual, right? So same thing, if I'm a physician, the AI can read the radiology report very good and perhaps better than most radiologists, but it still seemed like a black box. So I think it's a question of different functions. The level of comfort will be different, and the amount of human interaction will therefore vary depending on the criticality of the task, the error rate, and the comfort level of the people.
Thank you for that. Very, very applicable to the industry, the setting, the task, the role. Wonderful. Gosh, we have a robust series of questions coming in here. Great chat. Another question I'll serve up. Zayad, curious about the impact on emerging markets. Sunil, how might AI impact them? How can they benefit from it in this landscape where I know you mentioned with price, for example, Amazon, Walmart, the big players potentially colluding in price when it comes to these algorithms, the disincentive to actually reduce price because everyone's going to follow suit. I know that would impact consumers of lower socioeconomic status potentially in all sorts of settings, but I suppose particularly emerging markets, how might they be thinking about AI?
I think that, so rather than Walmart and Amazon thing that you mentioned, I was thinking of two different things. One is in emerging markets where resources may be limited, and there are a lot more different players because if I grow up in India, for example, India is a very large population, lots of entrepreneurs who don't have access to large amount of resources. But now they have technology that can help them be at the same level as many large companies because they can use technology to develop ads, to personalize ads, to do things that they couldn't do before. So I think it democratizes some of the tools and capabilities that were not available to small players. And that is especially true in emerging market. The second part is if you look across the world, in fact, many emerging markets has much greater percentage of younger population. So if you look at look at a country like India, again, as an example, very large population of young people who by definition are much more comfortable with these technologies. So adoption of these technologies, the comfort level with these technology will be much greater. So the adoption rate, at least my assessment is the adoption rate of these technology will be even faster in emerging markets than in developed markets.
I see that's great. And again, wonderful that these tools and technologies will be there to give folks a leg up and an advantage, democratizing access and opportunity to a large extent. That's great. Looking at a couple other questions coming in. This one's quite interesting from Lisbeth. So from the angle of the employee at a firm, what steps can they take to adapt to these new AI-driven processes that might be very new to their work stream and their day-to-day?
So I think just like with any technology, we have to learn it. We have to see what is possible and what is not possible. So my suggestion would be experiment with it, play with it, because you can't learn it from a distance. It's like somebody told me, I want to learn swimming, but I won't go into the pool until I know how to swim. Well, that doesn't happen. You got to jump in the pool to learn swimming. So it's the same thing. You have to jump in and experiment and play with it. And when you play with it, you will also understand what is possible and what is not possible, because technology still has limitations. And you need to develop your own capability in a way that if it's a routine task, the technology can do better. Well, you shouldn't be spending effort in that. So what technology should do is take away the non-value added task from you, so you can spend more time on the value added task. And then you allocate your time and resources accordingly. So that's what I would recommend, is to experiment with this, see for yourself what is possible, what is not possible. And as these technologies evolve, one of the things we always have to do is invest in our own learning, because human capital is the best form of capital for any company. And the world keeps changing, and we have to keep adapting to it.
Very, very true words. I wonder, Sunil, as we draw to a close, are there any parting words you might have for folks? I know you've given us a tremendous amount of insights across a wide array of industries and functions, and philosophical, ethical considerations. But any last words you might have for marketers or other folks who are just beginning to explore AI or trying to become more advanced in the space?
No, again, I want to first of all say thank you to everybody who had taken the time to join us. And as I said, this is an evolving field. Nobody has all the answers, and I certainly don't have all the answers. I'm sure the people who are listening in have tremendous ideas. They've seen lots of examples, so we're happy to learn from all of you guys. So send along any suggestions, ideas, things that you've seen that might help everybody learn from each other.
That sounds wonderful. And on behalf of everyone here at HBS Online, I wanted to again thank everyone who attended today or who is watching this at another point in time for all your wonderful questions, comments. Keep them coming. We do read all of these, so very much welcome your insights and your feedback. For those who registered for this webinar, you will be receiving a recording of it via email, and it will also become available on our social channels shortly. So be on the lookout if you missed any portion or would like to revisit any portion. For those interested in learning more about HBS Online as a whole, Sunil's digital marketing strategy course in particular, which again will be a wonderful way for you to sort of learn about crafting a marketing plan, acquiring customers, engaging customers, all about budget, KPIs, allocation. There's a wonderful simulation. Sunil mentioned Adobe. You'll get to use a tool developed there to allocate budgets. So wonderful, wonderful experience with digital marketing strategy for folks interested in that space, as well as any of our other offerings. Please do visit the website. That is online.hbs.edu. Again, I'm Katie Alex Stevens. Very nice to see you all today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Take care, everyone.